Alright, there's been some questions on this video, and several people are more concerned with my cold than what I'm trying to do here. When I get over this thing, I'll try to re-explain all this, but I just wanted to keep the ball rolling. I just got a bad sinus infection. I get them all the time. If someone's serious about doing this, I'm all over the place in the videos because, like I said, I did the 3.3, the 3.8. I did the 3.7 computer. It all comes down to the wiring, and I keep emphasizing on that firing order. That's what really tripped me up, and that had to do with the 3.7. I don't remember anything with the 3.6, but I know I tried that once because I was just trying to find what computer would run. I'd get one that ran the Jeep, and then, like I said, my gas gauge didn't work. So it's like, well, I'll go back to the junkyard and get another one. Well, then this worked, but I had to do this. And then this worked, and I had to do that. And I finally settled on the 3.7 engine computers out of the Dodge Ram, if you could find one. Maybe the Dakota, I don't know. Didn't really check. I think they were similar. And then that KJ Liberty, whatever it was, that 137 was out of. They seem to have most everything worked, except for the end of the day, I couldn't get my overdrive light switch thing to light up, but it still went in and out of gear, and you can look at your RPM gauge. You know when that thing's not in overdrive. I mean, I thought about wiring a resistor or something to that pin and putting it on the output, maybe so the light would turn on when it went in, to give you some indication, but it was just too much like work. These were the computers that I was working with, and if you guys want me to break this down into an individual computer, it's the same principle. These were the ones I first tried. I didn't have no gauges, whatnot. These here I had gauges, but I had to move a lot of wires around. This is where I found these computers at. I'd said in the other video here. There might be other computers at work. But ripping through the junkyard, I was more inclined to find these years with the black key. Like I said, a couple of these Chrysler vans had that fob on the key remote thing. That's got the key. Skim key thing. You'll have to grab the skim module, but I did find a couple that just had the black key. That's the thing, and you're going to want to, before you do any of this, is unhook whatever's in your vehicle now, your skim or whatever, because if you plug one of these computers in that don't have the skim into your skim key, the computer's going to get ruined. It's going to want that skim all the time, and it's never going to be right. It's just a pain in the butt to work around. Unplug your skim module on your vehicle if it has it. How you'll know is you'll have the gray key. If you have the gray key, then you're going to have to do other things. My Jeep never had the gray key. My Jeep took the black key. But I believe I showed you in a couple of them videos me fiddling around, screwing with the skim modules out of the van. And you got to keep them married together. Because if you get them flip-flopped around, you only get so many chances and that computer will lock you out. So, like, the first thing you're going to want to do is write on the case or zip tie or tape them two together and keep them together. Because the key, the skim, and the computer got to be all happy together and they can't be switched. I talked about the LS coils. I was going to give it a shot, and it all worked in theory. But what I was going to do, I started on this, the LS coils, these were the original pins for the Jeep, and they come down the stock wiring harness to the coil log. It's these three are in there and an ASD wire to give in the coil power. My plan was to pin the other three coils in out of the 3.7 computer and come down through one of them minivan wiper plugs that's the same as the coil with the knock sensors, and have 3 coils in each plug with 2 fuses, because these coils for the LS require a lot of power. They have a driver in them. And I was going to break it down into 2 banks with 2 separate fuses and go back to a relay and then have my ASD or my ignition source switch that relay, or even use the ASD output for the original coils to switch that power, because those LS coils have drivers in them and they're a pretty hot coil. I think it's more work than what it's worth to do this, but I thought it'd be cool just to prove the haters wrong. I got a set of LS coils. I cut the bracket in half and extended it so I could put 6. You know what I mean? I took 4 on the one side, cut the bracket in half and made it so all 6 would bolt on. And then I split them into 3 coil banks. And I used just the stock LS plug and just cut 1 coil out of each side. So I had it split into 2 banks. And these were the pins. You want this 12 volt to go to a good switch 12 volt. This has to go to your engine block. They say that you don't have to, but they want your ECU ground. Go back to the computer. That had something to do with the Chevy computer being able to tell whether or not this coil actually fired, your plug was fouled. You could take that to sensor ground, but I just took mine right to the battery ground, and I'd already updated the grounds on this Jeep with welding cable, and I don't know, Jeep and their grounding situation, it's just like non-existent. You're going to want to, before you do any of this, to straighten out your wiring, because half of your problems before you go and do this computer swap procedure, if you're willing to try it and get out of the comfort zone, is there very well could be it's just grounding and wiring and issues. And when you go through all this, you might end up fixing your Jeep anyhow without having to do what I did. But I noticed grounds. Stuff was grounded to the body. Body wasn't grounded to the frame. Motor wasn't grounded to the frame, but grounded to the body. But it was grounded to the battery. Just, I think they called that the big 3. Upgrade your wiring to your battery. String real actual wires from the engine block to the frame to the battery, to the firewall. Run one inside. When you get your service manual, you're going to learn a lot about that ground 100. That's the one inside the cab, down at your footwell. That thing there pulled my hair out for a while. It was all corroded. I cleaned it. And I strung extra grounds whenever I can. If there was a bare piece of metal and the opportunity to string something to a ground, I strung it. It helped out a lot, but these coils, ground and ground, ECU input ground, these switch off of a positive 5 volt input. This waste fire stuff on the Dodge switches on ground, so you got to switch this signal. And they make boxes online to do this, and they're charging ridiculous money. I come up with this little PNP transistor inverter circuit. I'm sure that you can get online and there's some Chinese, auction site module board that you can get for 99 cents. Whether it's reliable or not, I don't know. These were the circuits that I was going to fiddle around with to try to take the negative and switch it to a positive output. It's basically an inverter circuit. There's some theory and math and calculating your transistor currents and stuff. It's fairly simple, but if you don't like math, it's going to be a pain. But I could probably come up with something if somebody knows and actually give this a shot. But I mean, the LS coils, they work. You could make them work, but there's nothing wrong with for what we're doing with using the coil log or the Ford Ranger coil or the Ford Triton coil. I forget which one it was. It was a 6-pack that took the clip-on plug wires. I think that was a better setup, and it's wired basically the same. You'd have to get that pin out. But same 4 pins, power. It's basically identical in a different package. So if anybody's really wanting to do this and had a particular poison they wanted to pick, I could go down through here once I get over this cold and actually stick on one computer the entire series of videos. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.